Hello there, I'm Scotty. You're not. I was supposed to get this out yesterday, but I was spending time with a friend. He going through some stuff I can't get into, but it's not a big OT. It's another friend of mine. I won't say his name, but he's going through some stuff, and so I was hanging out with him to cheer him up. But we are here now. Took me a while because I was watching a certain TV show that is a reboot of another TV show. Takes place in a decade which I was very much alive in, the 90's. And so I watched that today. And now here I am with this review of Short Circuit. I almost said Short Circuit 2. Of Short Circuit from 1986. And this is part 2 of Pick 10 80's. What's going on here? Does it seem weird to you? Anyway, Short Circuit from 1986. So this is one where I have always preferred the sequel. It's the one that I watched the most. I don't think when I was a kid, maybe I watched part of this once, but I think I remember maybe waking up one morning for school, and this was on TBS, and it was at the very end of it. But other than that, the second one was always on movie channels and stuff, so that's the one I watched. And then when I found it at Shopko, I bought the second one on DVD. I didn't have this one for the longest time. I just had the second one because that's the one that I liked. And finally, you know what? I'm a completionist. I bought this, but I still never watched it. I've only watched this twice now. I think I watched it once after I bought it, and then this one. Now, I still prefer the second one. Story is that this robotic company called Nova are creating military-grade robots to fight in wars and stuff. And one of them is number 5 is struck by lightning, and it gains sentience, life. It becomes alive and runs off into and finds a young woman named Stephanie, played by Ali Sheedy. However, Nova sends their lead scientist, Newton Crosby, played by Steve Guttenberg, and his scientist friend, Ben Kubanita, which is his name in this one, played by Fisher Stevens, we'll talk about him, to go after the robot and get him back. But Schroeder, Colonel Schroeder, I don't know, a military man named Schroeder, played by G.W. Bailey, is also working for Nova to get the robot back, and of course he causes issues. And yes, his name is Schroeder, and they do make a scrotum joke, so yeah, before I even get into the main review, why does this look weird? Before I get into the main review, I have to point out the big ass elephant in the room. Ben Kubanita, I'm just going to call him Benjamin Javadi, okay? Benjamin Javadi, as he's known in the second film, okay? Benjamin. He's an Indian character played by an American, a white guy. It's brown face. Yes, a lot of people kind of, go down on these movies. Maybe that's not the right phrase to go down. Are negative on these movies because of that. But there are a lot of things that have happened in movies over the years where people have just all of a sudden have a wild hair up their ass and say, that's wrong, it should be canceled, it's negative, and people just need to shut the fuck up. Okay? I understand. This is not, it's racist. I'll come right out. It's racist. But it's a movie. It's a movie. And to be honest, growing up, watching the second one at least, I didn't know it was a white guy. Not until I saw him on Lost and they're like, Fisher Stevens. I'm like, I don't see what? And I looked him up, and like Fisher Stevens played, I forget his name, Minkowski. I'm like, what? Like, he doesn't look Indian anymore. What happened? Because he wasn't Indian. But yeah, yes, it is racist, but you don't need to get butthurt about it. We don't need one big march around, with flags trying to cancel something. We know it's bad. We know it's wrong. We know it's racist. You don't need to get a ball hair up your ass, and you don't need to have a movement about it. If something is wrong, it's wrong. You don't need to march a movement and have something canceled. Just accept that it's wrong and move on. Okay? Yes, it's not right. But I love the character, especially in the second one. He gets way more to do in the second one than he does here. He's basically just following Steve Guttenberg around. And I'm going to point out that G.W. Bailey is also in this film, like he was in my previous review, Mannequin. And this time there is a Steve Guttenberg. So it is sort of a Police Academy reunion. Again, because the last one had Kim Cattrall in it. So, yeah. So we start off the weird introduction to these robots. And so this head guy who was the Santa Claus in Christmas with the Cranks, by the way. He sends for Newton and Newton Crosby, what a name. Ben is like, the last time I'm seeing him, he was vomiting. Oh, hey, I want to point this out. Okay, people got wild hair up their ass about a white guy playing an Indian. Okay, what about Sacha Baron Cohen doing the voice of King Julian? That's an Indian accent, but you don't get a wild hair up that ass. People loved Apu, and they knew it was Hank Azaria until recently, where they're like, nope, we had a guy. People just they're actors playing roles. Leave them alone, okay? Leave them alone. Be like that guy. Leave it alone, or girl. I'm Dave, whatever. Chris Crocker. Leave him alone. But anyway. So Ben's like, this time I've seen him, he is in the bathroom, he's vomiting, and then we cut to Newton, he's just in his lab with this robot arm, and I'm like, okay, is that a joke? Shouldn't we have cut to him in the bathroom, or coming out of a bathroom? Doesn't really make much sense. But yes, and so he's asked to schmooze with them, but he's one of those where he's like, well, I make this stuff, I don't need to talk to the people, but they bring them out anyway. And while they're doing this, one of their robots, number 5, is on a charging station when a storm starts. And, like, the storm starts raining when they're outside, and we're going to move this inside. They don't move everything in right away. They leave one out there. You get struck by lightning, and it comes to life. Takes off, You track it down. They try to track it down, but it ends up in the van mobile home thing of Stephanie, played by Ali Sheedy. I think maybe she's the problem I have with this movie, because her acting is just weird. She comes off almost childlike, but she's not supposed to. I don't think. Her acting is a little weird in this, to be honest, but I mean, she was okay in Breakfast Club. This came out before that. That came out before this, I should say. She's fantastic as Yang on Psych, so she can act. It just, I don't know, whatever she was going for here. I could do without Schroeder, though. He's the stereotypical military guy who's going to do whatever he wants in spite of whatever he's told. And, yeah, he basically goes off the hinges trying to get the robot back. Yeah. Most of the movie is a fish out of water story. I think the second one has more fish out of water stuff than this one, but it's basically Stephanie showing number 5 how to live, how the human world works. And I love what they do here. because she calls Nova and tells them, they're there. Okay, we're gonna come and get him. We're gonna disassemble him and figure out what happened. And so they're just waiting for them to show up. When he finds a grasshopper, he starts hopping and he squishes it. It's squished apart. He's like, reassemble. And she's like, can't reassemble. It's dead. Disassemble? Dead? Disassemble? Dead? And he realizes if he's disassembled, he could be dead, so he doesn't want to. The problem comes from, I know this isn't the problem. The problem comes from the fact that they don't believe he's alive. They think it's a malfunction and they won't listen. So that, if the military failed to get him, they come to the idea that they have to at least talk to someone, and that Newton is the one that will listen. So they set up this get together at this restaurant, and he makes the demand to Marner, the Santa Claus guy from the Christmas of the Cranks. He said, I'll do it, but no Scroder. But of course, you knew it was going to happen. And so they make it a deal, and they're talking when the other robots show up, and number 5, so my nose is itching tonight. Number 5 reprograms them and stuff. Stops it from working. But Scroder shows up, and of course Stephanie thinks that Newton betrayed him. Now, I think this would have worked better if Marner wasn't in on it. Because he shows up later with them, and it's very much he's in on it. I think this would have worked better if they went all in on Scroder being the no-nonsense guy, that even when Marner's like, okay, we're doing this, but we're doing it Newton's way, and this way we're going to get it back, and we're going to be civilized about this, tells him I can do it, but Scroder does it anyway, this sort of thing. Like Marner's like, Scroder, I told you not to get involved, whole thing, sort of thing. Like going to business for himself, trying to take the robot down, that sort of thing. Like, I don't know, maybe you have to have Marner behind it, but I don't know. But yeah, he just shows up, and then they think that he's in on it, and then after getting really pissed off, number 5 kidnaps Newton, and they go up into the mountains, where this is where he realizes that number 5 is alive. It takes him a while because he refuses to believe it. He's like, what's the malfunction? No malfunction. I'm alive. And he won't believe it. He just thinks it's a malfunction, and he's going through the circuit board trying to figure out where it was. Like, I don't know if they ever connect that it was a lightning bolt. Maybe they do. I think they do. I don't know. It's very weird, but yeah. And so you get that connection between Newton and Stephanie as well. Like, I'm sorry. Like, okay, so the big thing with Benjamin is that his character doesn't understand American lingo. So later, when they said he escapes, we have a bigger problem. His lasers, don't tell me his laser's still active. He says, normally if you're speaking English, you say bingo. But he says bimbo. And later he goes, and then earlier he says, I have to use the jack. It's the John. Bathroom. Toilet. The John. I have to be using the jack. John. The John. And that's his whole thing. He messes up words, then he doesn't, he's autistic language. So when Newton is telling him that he and Stephanie had a connection, and Newton's, come on, get in. I'm having a raging woody right now. I'm like, okay, TMI, dude. Just TMI. Just TMI. Yeah. I do laugh at it. He's better in the second one, I think. I think they gave him more to do, where he works better. Yeah. And so they decide they have to find a way to convince them that he is alive. But Newton says that they won't believe he's alive. Like, we have to figure out a way to save him, but they're not going to believe he's alive. And eventually he gets surrounded, and number 5 rolls out, and it looks like he's destroyed. But it turns out that was one of the other ones, and he's still alive. Which is where the movie ends. So it's not really a conclusive ending, per se. Maybe? I don't know. But, yeah, there's the ending, chase scene, and everything. There's chase scenes at the end of both of these, but yeah, this one just never tickled my fancy like the second one. I still prefer it. I'll be doing that one in a sequel-a-thon down the line, but for this one, I'm gonna give it middle of the road. It's never been anything. I'm not gonna go back to it. If I want to watch number 5 or number Johnny 5, because at the end he's like, I need a name, Johnny, and Johnny 5. So, Johnny 5. And if you're wondering, why do you have Rob the Robot back there? Well, because I call that Johnny 5. It's very similar to number 5. So, yeah, I call that Johnny 5. But yeah, it's the middle of the road for me. It's not really my cup of tea. I like the second one better. That's the one I'll watch on repeat. I love it. But so, shall we? All right. 7. We have a 7. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. 7. Got it. All right. All right. We have Beverly Hills a Cop. I forgot this was in there. I could do the sequels for sequel-a-thon. That takes off 2 of the other ones that I have to do from the... Because I'm working on a way to do sequel-a-thon 2 without having to buy other sequels, but also without having to do... Because I got a bunch of movies that are just 2 movies, like Now You See Me, or Ted, or Pacific Rim, Kingsman. I know there's the Kingsman, but I don't own that one. So eventually I'm going to have to do it anyway. But that I could do, if I figure out, I could add the 2 Beverly Hills Cop sequels to the sequel-a-thon. I can take 2 of those other ones off of the Pick 10 Scotty's Choice. So it is more of my choice and not... Yes, I'm doing a Scotty's Choice one. So, excuse me. Beverly Hills Cop, starring Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley. Yes. So, what are your thoughts on Short Circuit? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.